Black Scully on check. Got a little CFB Nation theme polo on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. On today's docket, we got so much to talk about today. Shout out to everybody who checked in and watched yesterday's episode. I feel like it might have been our best episode from a numbers perspective, at least while we were live, because keep in mind we do go live on 3 different platforms. So I truly appreciate, everybody who was a part of that being a part of that, as always. So on today's docket, for our Into the News segment, we're going to talk about Steve Spurrier. You guys know I'm a huge fan of the old ball coach, and I like to talk about Steve Spurrier quite a lot on this program, and I enjoy his take on college football, because one thing you know for certain is that it will not be in any way, shape, or form. It's my alarm telling me to wake up. In any way, shape, or form will it be, what's the verbiage I'm looking for? It's not going to be watered down at all. He's going to give you his honest feeling, and he's going to stir the pot a little bit, and he talks a little bit about Missouri's schedule. Also on today's docket for our Into the News segment, Scott Hanson apparently is a huge college football fan and will be open to do NFL RedZone. I gave my 2 cents on it when we would do the college football RedZone. I gave my 2 cents on the subject matter about a week ago roughly, and I thought that Matt Berry would be the perfect candidate for it. Scott Hanson, I'm sure if he was interested in it, he would get first dibs, but my pick is still Matt Berry if they did do a college football RedZone. Steve Sarkisian doesn't care that Texas is rated number 1 in the AP poll. He doesn't care, and I think that's the ideology of most programs. They don't care what anybody got to say, whether it's good or bad. At the end of the day, they got a job to go do. Carson Beck, he's getting a lot of love in Coral Gables, man. And Mario Cristobal is loving on him, man. I'm sure Carson Beck appreciates it. Simpson named Alabama starter. That shouldn't surprise anyone. I said my MVP of the spring season was Simpson. I thought that he took command of the offense. I thought he displayed that leadership. And, Alabama's going to be dangerous this year. I think there'll be a team we got to watch out for. And then Rueben Owens, it's good to hear some news down from College Station that he's back into form after the injury last season. On our Governor React segment, we're going to look at ESPN's list of the top 15 freshmen to watch. They also did some honorable mention. And, of course, as always, I'll tell you guys where I agree and or disagree, with the list. On the Governor Ruling segment, of course, we talked about the AP poll yesterday. Didn't get to talk about it in as great detail as I would have liked to talk about it for a few factors. 1, because we covered it last night on Reaction Monday. 2, because, this is an hour-long show. We go live at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. That came out at 12, so I just wanted it to be a part of the episode. But 10 SEC teams and made it, AP poll top 25 for the preseason poll. I know a lot of people take issue with it. I looked at it. I can argue that 8 of those teams should definitely be in the top 25. And maybe one of those teams, it depends on when you stand with the program. And there's one team, and this should be no trouble guessing which team I'm talking about, that shouldn't be in that top 25 at all, to be honest with you. And for the Around the Nation segment, we're going to look at Bleacher Report's 2025 dark horses for conference championship bets. Of course, these have been updated after the releasing of the AP poll. So what we're going to do during this segment as well is kind of go around the nation and look at some good odds that I like, in each conference. So this probably is going to end up being one of those episodes where we hit the, the overtime button like we're at Wingstop or something like that, just because we got so much to talk about, man. Governor College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great
on
defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the It is Tuesday, August 12th. Welcome to this Into the News segment of Governor of College Football. First things first, y'all know what I want to say, but I'm not going to say it. But so into the news, man. Steve Spurrier, he says a little bit about Missouri's schedule. Missouri had, if I'm not mistaken, the 29th toughest schedule in the country last year. Of course, which was the easiest. I think it was 29th, which was easiest in the SEC. And I believe they arguably have the easiest schedule in the SEC this upcoming season. And the old ball coach don't like it. I'm sure he's looking at games and he's looking at other people's schedules, and I'm sure he's making a way for his team in Gainesville and how they can make the college football playoff. And Steve Spurrier ain't afraid to stir the pot. He's always been that way. I remember when the Washington Redskins were the Redskins, and I am 100% on board for bringing them back to the Redskins. He had the fun gun offense out here. Did it work out? Not quite as we anticipated it to work out, but it was still a great time for this city, for sure. So he was talking to CBS Sports about the easiest schedule and, some of the easiest schedules in the country. That thing always pops up at the same time every day on another duly noted podcast. And, old ball coach immediately guessed Missouri would be number one. Not quite. Of course, the honor went to Virginia, but Spurrier's instincts weren't too far off. Sporting News already crowned Mizzou with the lightest load of the SEC. Listen, let me tell you something. You have the opportunity to be very creative with your non-con schedule. We've heard Kirk Cignetti say stuff about the SEC's non-con schedule. Yo, look at this. I think there's 2 schools in the country, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that play 8 home games this year. One of them is Louisville because they're forced to play 4 games in conference on the road. The other one is Mizzou, who plays 8 home games because they're forced to play the 4 in-con games on the road. You have the opportunity to create your own schedule. If you're already going to go through a tough gauntlet like that team in, Columbia, Missouri has to in the SEC, why not schedule easy non-con games? The gauntlet is tough already. So we can sit here and look at strength of schedule, and we know that, as far as the governor of college football is concerned, when we look at the college football playoff, the number one key metric for us is your strength of schedule, 1,000%. That's what I'm looking at. What type of gauntlet did you go through? And of course, there's other factors that matter, like, what was your record amongst common opponents? If there are any common opponents for any of the teams that we're talking about. Also, did you win your conference? Did you win your conference championship game? How well did you fare? So a team like Missouri, you'll look at their schedule and people will say easy schedule because of the, 8 home games. Their gauntlet is tough. I do not blame programs for saying, you know what? We got this super duper tough schedule. We going chill, bro. Our non-con schedule going to be easy. If you're in the SEC, I feel like you would do that. I want to say the Big Ten as well, but the SEC gauntlet is just a little bit tougher. But, to be honest with you, it is what it is. But Spurrier is, he's always playing the long game, and he's really looking at Mizzou like, man, this team could really make some noise. Coming in with our second story on our into the news segment, Scott Hanson says yes to college football red zone. NFL Red Zone's maestro, Scott Hanson, says if ESPN call, he is speaking on the Rich Eisen. So Hanson revealed that he loves college ball every bit as much as the pros. I did not know that, but there are hurdles. ESPN doesn't have, every game rights. Other networks might not play nice, and kickoffs aren't synchronized like NFL Sundays slate, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I love college football. Of course, NFL, you got your 1 p.m. and your 4 p.m. games, and then, he's live for 7+ hours, depending on how late the 4 o'clock games go, right? But typically it's for 7 hours. College football is a little bit different. You do have the noon kickoff. You do have the 3:30 kickoffs. And then sometimes you'll get an occasional 4:30 kickoff. Then, of course, you got like the 7 and the 7:30 and the 8 games. And then you got the 10 or 10:30 or 11 p.m. games. I think there are games that's late. It is what it is. I just think if they do it, like I talked about with ESPN Goal Line, it was cool, but they didn't start to 3:30 p.m. If they're going to do it, make sure they start at 12:30. And, of course, there's nuances and stuff we got to look at. As far as the logistics are concerned, other networks may not play nice. Yes, that's very true. But, at the same time, it isn't like how Sunday Ticket is with the NFL, where those games are hidden behind a paywall if you aren't in a local market, right? Like, let's just be honest about it. So we'll have to see what that looks like, but I'm sure if Scott Hanson wants in, he'll get it. But my pick still goes to Matt Berry. I think that should be the guy that does this. Steve Sarkisian, in our third story of our Into the News segment, shrugs at Texas being number one. The preseason AP poll crowned Texas number one. for it's been a minute edging out Penn State, but Steve Sarkisian isn't popping any champagne. It really doesn't matter. Sark said, knowing that the Longhorns open with a massive number 1 versus Ohio State for a program that's fallen into 2 straight college football semifinals, Sark's focus is on finishing number 1 in January, not August. You ask every program right now, do they care about the depth chart? Their answer overwhelmingly is going to be no. Do they care about the rankings? Their answer is going to be overwhelmingly no. Now, the players, on the other hand, do care about this. And good coaches will use this as bulletin board material. If I'm Dave Aranda down in Waco, hey, you see, they ain't even have us in the top 25. Oh, they don't think we good enough. I'm using it as bulletin board material. If I'm Kirk Ferentz in Iowa City, so they didn't have them in the top 25. And actually, on the teams receiving votes, they were kind of low on the list. If I'm Kirk Ferentz in Iowa City, bulletin board material. They don't believe in us. That's the approach that I'm taking. It's bulletin board material. How I felt about it, I kind of spoke on it yesterday. I'll speak on it a little bit more later when we get into our 10 SEC teams being in the AP poll. But, for the grand scheme of things, it is what it is. Like, the AP poll is always going to vote like that. And historically, they've done a pretty decent job with it. They just had some slip-ups and moments that I cannot forgive them for, like in 2022 when Anthony Richardson and the Florida Gators upset Utah and went from not ranked to 12. And I think they won 6 ball games that year. Maybe 7. I'm not sure. But either way, they didn't win a lot of games that year. So, of course, it's going to be slip-ups. And it's difficult when you do polling. Our CFB Nation poll should be dropping this upcoming Sunday. I wanted it to drop the same day as the AP poll, but we're still waiting to get a couple more results in. We need to get those results in so we can get this poll out. But I think we'll find out how difficult it is to do polling, because people will criticize it, and it's all good, and we welcome it, because we the 1%ers. We will argue with you in the chat if we have to. We love college football. We can talk college football with anybody. I feel strongly about that. Coming in the number 4 news story, 4 out into the news segment, Mario Cristobal can't wait for Carson Beck. This is dope. I think, when teams publicly, show praise for a guy like Carson Beck will run through a brick wall for you. I feel like there were times in Athens where he felt like he didn't have that support. I think it was a roller coaster ride of sorts, because we looked at heading into the 2024 college football season, we was looking at him as possibly a guy that could be the number 1, quarterback taken in the 2025 NFL draft. Had a down year, but I say that loosely, still threw for 28 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Still have Georgia right there in the thick of things. Georgia was able to win the SEC last year. Of course, the job's not done, because in Athens, it's all about you being able to win the Natty. We all know that. But, at the same time, I feel like, he wanted to change. I think he's in a much more friendlier quarterback offense. We also know there were some other reasons he went there, which we will not speak on this show. But if you know, there was definitely some other reasons he went there. But this guy is legit. Cristobal is all in on him. And Cristobal has really been blessed these last 2 years to have a guy like Cam Ward at the quarterback spot, and then having a guy like Carson Beck right after that. Ty Simpson named Alabama's starter. Attention all programs across America. I have been a huge fan of, if you don't name your starting quarterback in the spring, like Shane Beamer did in the spring season 2024, when Robbie Ashford and Lenore Sellers was going at it, at the end of the spring, he said Lenore Sellers is the starter until further notice. And guess what? That lasted for the duration of the season. If you are going to let your quarterback competition ride out through fall camp, you don't wait all day. What we are in the second, really heading into the third week of fall camp, right? And Alabama has named their starter. This is how you do it. Tuscaloosa, they had an idea. I'm surprised they didn't name him after spring, because he was my MVP of the spring when I look at everything in totality and the advancements that he's been making and the type of intel that we've been getting out of Tuscaloosa. We were able to look at this and say, wow, Ty Simpson has really balled out and was the MVP of the spring. So, but if you're going to let this thing play out in fall camp, dude, let it be known early. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we have what is that, 11 days, is it? No, that don't sound right. We know fall camp is coming up very soon. Yeah, no, it is 11 days. Fall camp it'll be here in 11 days. And I'm sorry, not fall camp. Week 0 will be here in 11 days, right? So, yes, all teams don't play on week 0, but everybody plays week 1. So, what's that? 18 days from the day the season starts. Now that Alabama has named their starting quarterback, they've done it early enough so now that Ty Simpson can get all of their first-team reps and as many reps as he like. Anything he wants to do after practice with the wide receivers or the halfbacks, he's able to do that because he's been named the guy. This is how you do that. You don't wait until leading up to week 1 because you want to have a smoke screen. So hopefully Ryan Day names a starter soon. And if you didn't know, that's where I was headed at with that, and you haven't been watching the show long enough. You should have known I was going there. Rueben Owens, I'm excited to see him at Texas A&M. I really do. That running game is going to be incredible. It really is. They'll have a 2 running back tandem down there in College Station, and then Marcel Reed will be able to pick up yards. But it's good to see him back. Mike Elko says, when he came back last season, he was less than 100%, showed, rare toughness. Now he's fully healthy. The former SEC All-Freshman selection is ready to claim his form when the Aggies open up versus UTSA on August 30th. So that's good news. I always like hearing good news, when we do this segment. That's pretty cool. So that's our Into the News segment. We're going to move right along to our Governor React segment. Governor Reacts, ESPN's top freshman to watch in 2025. This is interesting because we kind of covered this topic. Not kind of. We did cover this topic yesterday on Overreaction Monday. Thoroughly enjoyed, covering this topic. Before we get into who's actually on this list, let's talk about, who's on the watch list as well. We got somebody like a Dallas Wilson from Florida. I know inside of our circles here at CFB Nation, Dallas Wilson was a buzz name during the spring. They were talking this kid up. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs. He's definitely with a team who I have high aspirations for this season. I think their ball coach has high aspirations for. And then, the aforementioned Steve Spurrier, the old ball coach, has high aspirations for this season. I think Dallas Wilson is going to make an immediate impact this year. I really do. Jakeem Stewart is on the watch list as well. Didn't quite make the top 10, but, these are the guys that are on the watch list. Of course, I want to go over them first. Travis Smith Jr. from Tennessee is on the watch list. Jaren Kioway Saga Poluta. I don't not know how to say his name. It's crazy because he was at ACC Media Days. We had ran out of time because I was supposed to interview him, but we had ran out of time because Coach Justin Wilcox and Mona had such a great conversation, and Devin Brown and Jalen had, such a great conversation that we just ran over on our allotted time. So I didn't get a chance to interview him, but, went to Oregon, was a highly, rated kid out of high school. I'm not sure if they've named who the starting quarterback is. Devin Brown got this fire in his eyes, and he's been through this. This is his, third quarterback battle, bro? Like, he's been through this, and he knows what to expect. I expect him to win. I really do. I do expect Devin Brown to win. I don't think they've named the starting quarterback, but that's something I got to look into. And then we got Missouri's freshman wide receiver Donovan Olagbo. We'll see how he does this year. Cornerback Dijon Lee from Alabama. The rich just keep getting richer defensively, bro. I promise you. Offensive lineman Brandon Jacobs from Clemson. Clemson has done a great job just recruiting. And then they're going to show this kid the Clemson way, and he'll be a factor. Defensive tackle Elijah Griffin from Georgia. We know what that program does. Wide receiver Quentin Gibson, Colorado, is on the watch list as well. Tight end Lincoln Cure, Kansas State. Wide receiver Elijah Barris, Notre Dame. Wide receiver Lotzia Brooks, Alabama. Wide receiver Javon Boggs. This is still the watch list. Florida State. Offensive lineman Andrew Babaloa, Michigan. Defensive tackle Amari Adams, Clemson. So now let's get into the top 10 freshmen to watch. The ones that I just mentioned were purely just the watch list candidates. Coming in at number 10, Graceson Littleton. He's at Texas. Camp Busters is loud. A media contributor with 6 returning starters on defense is what people are saying about this kid. Should he get pivotal playing time? And we know that Texas isn't afraid to play true freshmen. If that true freshman is ready for the moment and they've done the work and they've done what they were supposed to do, during the spring, if they was an early enrollee, they come and they continue to do the same thing during fall camp. Texas isn't afraid to play freshmen at all on their defensive side of the ball. Up next, we got Demetrius Samuel from Syracuse. Some people saying possibly Travis Hunter-esque. I don't like that. It's too soon. Travis Hunter is such a unicorn. Now, what we see in these defensive back and wide receiver now, what we see teams more willing to do this than they were before? Absolutely. Because, at the Pee Wee level, high school level, a lot of people play Iron Man ball. Like, they play offense and defense. It's not foreign, and most of these people have been doing it their entire lives. The only position where you really see it stop is at quarterback, unless your kid happen to go to high school in Maryland, and you had somebody like Derek Williams, who's the number one recruit in the 2005 class, who was playing quarterback and cornerback, and in his last year he played wide receiver and cornerback, and he was dynamic at both. And I thought he was better at corner. He went to Penn State. He ultimately ended up going to Penn State, and then he ended up being a wide receiver. And I think he made it through a training camp, maybe one season in the NFL, but he was really good. I think he does pod work now for Penn State. So shout out to Derek Williams. But I think if he was playing in this generation, not to the level that because Travis Hunter is just a unicorn. I think we got to remember that. We got to put that in perspective. It's the reason why he won the Heisman last year, because it's nothing that we've never seen before. You can't say Charles Woodson when they put him in on spots. We're talking about somebody's playing 80 to 85% offense and defense of all of the snaps on offense and defense. That's what he did. So Demetrius Samuel, I think we'll see teams be more willing to do it, but they'll do it in spots. If they're primarily a defensive back, they'll get most of the snaps at defensive back, but maybe they'll, be in like 50% of the plays on offense. Something like that. Travis Hunter is a unicorn, so we got to be careful with that. DJ Pickett, LSU, the rich get richer, I promise you. 94 tackles, 10 interceptions, NFL bloodlines, super tall at the cornerback position. You got to love it. I continue to say it, the rich get richer. Offensive tackle, David Sanders, Tennessee, comes in at the number 6 spot. Added 30 pounds of muscle this offseason, built to be a bodyguard. I know we always talk about the strength and conditioning coach at Oklahoma, but Tennessee, I've seen him do this. I don't know if people remember how skinny, and he's still skinny. Nico, I believe it was before he arrived in Knoxville, and though it's probably not as noticeable on television, he did add some weight during his time down there. You see the same with like linebacker Arion Carter, and I know I've been extremely tough with Tennessee. Just in, my beliefs on where they at. But it is what it is. I'm always going to be honest in that perspective. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to be honest. I'm always going to be honest. But, yeah, Arion Carter, I think, is going to have a breakout season this year. But, yeah, Tennessee, shout out to their strength and conditioning coach, because they found a way to add on weight to these players. And that's what you're supposed to do. I think the early enrollee thing allowed that to happen. Another guy that I went to high school with was Derek Harvey, who ended up being, I think, the number 8 pick of either 2008 or 2009 draft. I can't remember. It was one of those drafts, but he played at Florida, redshirted his first year at Florida, and he was like a skinnier defensive lineman when he was at Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Greenbelt, Maryland, but he still made a lot of plays, had a bunch of sacks. Man, he went to Gainesville, gained a bunch of weight. A couple years later, he was dominating. You see that at a faster pace now because of the early enrollee. People are getting there in January, and the spring they're going to look where you at. Hey, this is where your weight is. This is where we need your weight to be. This is what we need you to eat. Bada bing, bada boom, you make it happen. And it just happens, more expeditiously now. Coming at number 5, a guy that I would have had higher on this list, Malik Washington from Maryland. 25-0 in conference as a starter in high school. The kid just does not lose. And I know he had some sort of a lower leg injury, but I did see some reports yesterday that coach says he should be back to the practice field. I hate to say this because Mike Locksley is truly a guy that I respect. A lot of people don't know one of the hobbies that I have is studying playbooks. I have access to so many teams' playbooks, whether they're older or not, but the actual playbook, the actual installs. I got Rich Rodriguez playbook and how he did his installs back in 2005, how detail-oriented he was with his installs, how they walked everybody through. You see it from an organizational level. Another guy's playbook I've had the opportunity to get my hands on was Mike Locksley playbook, and I got to see a play-by-play log of his play calls during the Iron Bowl. I think it might have been Tua's last year at Alabama, and just to see how great I think it was Tua's last year. Just see how great of a play caller he was and how he dialed up stuff. So I have a great respect for him. And he's hardworking, bro. Like, when you have opportunities to be around these programs, I've been at practices, I've been at spring games, I've been at games, always from the field, right? You get to see the respect that he has for them. Like, you know, his team, he allows them to enjoy themselves and have fun. But when it's time to be serious, it's time to be serious. So after every spring game, they do this annual, like, celebration ceremony to celebrate the spring. And, you know, he had to tell them, like, and it was really like a look. It's almost that look, like, you know, my mom from time to time would have to yell at us. You know what I'm saying? Just because me and my brother, I don't know, we act like we hate each other. Best of friends now. But growing up, we was always getting into it. My mom hated it. So my dad, though, he'll give us a look and we'll straighten up, right? It's the same way with Mike Loxley, man. When you look at some of these players, like, tighten up, they tighten up immediately. Also, man, the weight loss journey that he's been on, bro. Like, he's hard-working, so that I hate to hear that he's on a hot seat. He's 100% on a hot seat this season. And I said all of that to say this. I think Malik Washington needs to start this year. I think he's the key to keep Coach Loxley off the hot seat. Now, it's going to be difficult. They really do have a difficult schedule. I can't wait to see Billy Edwards and Maryland play. I believe their game is in Madison. Might try to make it out there for that. And if you missed yesterday's episode, you missed me announcing where we're going week 0, week 1, and week 2. But it's all good. I'll do an updated list after some more things are confirmed. But, yes, Malik Washington is truly dynamic. The fact that they was able to keep a local kid local is incredible. I can't wait to see him this year. If we weren't on the pathways that we were on for week 1, I wanted to go to the Maryland FAU game so badly. I really do. I do. Our relationship with Maryland is incredible. Our relationship with FAU may be the strongest bond we have with a university other than Georgia State. You know how Deion rank his kids? I need to start ranking our relationships with programs. I need to start doing that. I really do. But yeah, FAU is right up there. I'm still appreciated for everything that the FAU did for us. But we have a strong relationship with Maryland and Malik Washington. I can't wait to see him this year. Wanted to go to that FAU game because I think that's going to be a really good game. That's going to be a surprising game. My bold prediction for the year, one of them. I got a couple more coming because next week we do our brackets. I predict conference winners for every conference. Next week we reveal our playoff bracket. And then next week, we should also get the CFB Nation poll. So I can't wait to react to that. So it's been really dope. I spoke with CFB Nation. Shout out to the game. Coming at number 3, Devin Sanchez, Ohio State. I practice against Jeremiah Smith every day. A game day might actually feel easier. That's incredible. If I'm a young cat and I want to get better, like, that's what I want to do. Like, I saw an interesting discussion between Myles Garrett and Shedeur Sanders. I think Shedeur Sanders was trying to pick his brain, and he had needed Myles help with something. And Myles was like, I know you don't want me rushing. Like, bro, I'll kill you. Like, it was that type of discussion. But, you know, if you want to be elite, put yourself around elite players, 24/7. And the things, that you want, you're going to get. So the fact to hear that Devin Sanchez every day in practice wants to go up against Jeremiah Smith, and I'm sure Jeremiah Smith is definitely going to get the best of him. But at the end of the day, iron sharpens iron, bro. It really does. And that's how you become great. And the guy that's at number 3 of this list is who I would have number 1 on this list. And the guy who's number 1 on this list is also who D now had number 1 on his list. But Gideon Davidson from Clemson, to come into a situation, he averaged, 10.53 yards per carry in high school. He's a home run hitter, like C.J. Spiller was. And I feel like they haven't had that in a little while. Somebody that could take that thing and go 80 yards with it, right? Are we having buffering issues? We dropping frames? What's going on? I think we're good. I think that's fake news. It's all good. So to have a guy like that, in your backfield that's that dynamic, who I think is going to be starting, I think it will be a running back by committee, but he's going to get ample carries this year. And to be in an offense that's so running back friendly, it really is. I know a lot of people think about Garrett Riley. They think about his variation of the air raid. Because newsflash, I don't know if you guys know this, his variation of the air raid is different than his brother's variation of the air raid. They both run air raid. It's just the offense has evolved. And I talk about evolution of offenses a little bit yesterday. But it's different. I think this guy's a perfect fit with this program, and they're going to need him in some games. Some of them ugly games that you can have in ACC, and they need to finish. Yes, Gideon Davison, for sure. Watching some of his high school highlights are incredible. Bryce Underwood, Michigan. NFL scouts are already drooling. Only question is when he gets the keys. I don't believe they named their starting quarterback. I believe it's going to be either him or Mikey Keene. Probably should be him. I don't know how to calibrate the team from Ann Arbor just yet. I really don't. And I struggle with it, actually. I struggle with it a lot. And I don't know why it's so difficult for me to look at this team and kind of figure out where they're at. I know we got Sharon Moore's suspension looming, and that's going to happen, I think, weeks 3 and 4. Games against Central Michigan University and a game in Lincoln versus Nebraska. You know, I don't know. I said this before on the show. I believe Jim Harbaugh was so detailed-oriented, and not that Sharon Moore isn't, but he was so detailed-oriented that he had the ability to, you know, be away and things still were smooth. You know, like the Penn State game, for example, and the Ohio State game, for example, when Sharon Moore had to coach those games. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. You know, what happens if they go to Norman, you know, for Coach Sharon was more like kind of homecoming of sorts, right? Because he played ball at Oklahoma, and they get thrashed. Like, where we at then? And then they got to go 2 games after getting thrashed without their head coach. I'm not sure, but Bryce Underwood is truly electric. And then Dakorien Moore, everybody probably could have guessed this one at Oregon. 10-4 second speed. We know that wide receiver 1 is out. Don't know how long he's out for because he plans on being back this year. But it'll be interesting. 24-foot long jump. And, of course, like I said, wide receiver 1, Evan Stewart being out. The runway is clear for takeoff. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how well Dakorien Moore does. Also interested to see how well Dante Moore does. One thing we know for sure is that they got a lot of talent out there. Dan Lanning has done an outstanding job with recruiting, and some people may be upset, you know, with some of the practices that he utilized, you know, with recruiting, but it is what it is. You know, you're supposed to be a brand ambassador for your program, and sometimes that means embarrassing yourself to get a recruit. It is what it is at the end of the day. We're going to move right along into our next segment, Governor Ruling. Alrighty, so yesterday the AP poll dropped. We talked about this live. We're going to go over the other teams receiving votes, go over the top 25 again, and then we'll talk about the 10 SEC teams in the AP poll. And some people are not happy about it. It is what it is. So teams that receive votes: Louisiana Lafayette, Colorado, Army, Pitt, TCU. TCU is deserving. Iowa, Navy. Navy is deserving. Liberty, Duke. Florida State, Memphis, James Madison, Auburn, Toledo, UNLV, Nebraska, Tulane, Missouri, Georgia Tech, USC, Louisville, Baylor, Utah, BYU. A couple of those teams, not a couple, quite a few of those teams have legitimate arguments that says, hey, we deserve to be in the college football playoff, right? They have legitimate arguments. They really do, and we couldn't even get upset at it. Coming in at number 25, Boise State. I already gave you kind of some of my ideologies on it. I just want to give you guys who the teams are before we get into our segment. 24, Tennessee. 23, Texas Tech. 22, Iowa State. 21, Ole Miss. 20, Indiana. 19, Texas A&M. 18, Oklahoma. 17, Kansas State. 16, SMU. 15, Florida. 14, Michigan. 13, South Carolina. 12, Illinois. 11, Arizona State. 10, Miami. 9, LSU. 8, Alabama. 7, Oregon. 6, Notre Dame. 5, Georgia. 4, Clemson. 3, Ohio State. 2, Penn State. 1, Texas. What's everybody beef with Penn State being number 2? Do you fools listen to music or do you just skim through it? Like, what's y'all beef with Penn State being number 2? Why everybody got like such an issue with that? Like, I understand the James Franklin thing. Trust me, I get it. But, like, have you not seen their roster? Do you not know who their coordinators are? Like, why do so many people, like, because I put out a video, like, talking about Tim Brando because he had Penn State at number 6. Somebody else list I saw that Penn State was number 7. People were taking issue with Joe Klatt having them at 1. I'm like, do you fools listen to music or do you just skim through it? Truly, like, that's what I'm asking. Like, do you fools watch college football or do you just skim through it? Or you're just a fan of an SEC team and you only care about SEC ball. Or you're a fan of a G5 team and you feel like your G5 team don't get enough notoriety, so you know what? Listen, Penn State has one of the best constructed rosters in all of college football. What is that beef with them? I'm asking a legitimate question. Like, why are you guys so frustrated with Penn State? I don't get it. But let's talk about the 10 SEC teams in the AP poll. That was at 24 Tennessee, at 21 Ole Miss, at 18 Oklahoma, 15 Florida, 13 South Carolina, 9 LSU, 8 Bama, 5 Georgia, 1 Texas. I feel like I missed somebody. 19, I missed Texas A&M. All right. So those are the 10 teams in the poll. So I know a lot of people take huge issue with the fact that they got 10 teams in. And I know somebody who's ecstatic about that is Commissioner Greg Sankey. That's why I had him on the thumbnail today. I enjoy making the little Pixar images that I do for the thumbnails. When I decided to go with that style and kind of make fun, like I wanted my thumbnails to tell a story, and the old format was cool, it was sleek, but it wasn't telling a story. I feel like every episode of Governor of College Football, if you've never seen this show, you should be able to just look at the thumbnails and see it like kind of as a comic strip, right? That's the way I visualize it, right? And of course, if you want people to click and actually watch, because the content is fire, you gotta find your niche. You gotta find something that you're doing that nobody else is doing. And I feel like I found that with the Pixar themed images. But let's get back to it. So SEC just dropped a record 10 teams in the preseason AP Top 25. They've been doing this since 1936. So we're looking at 89 years the AP poll has been doing this. 89 years. For the first time in 89 years, and I believe it was a top 20 back in 1936, but for the first time in 89 years, a team got 10 schools in, 10 programs in on the AP Top 25 poll. For those of y'all who like mathematics, that's 40% of this poll belong to teams in the SEC. And just think about it. We're just not even quite a half a year removed from a college football playoff committee that only allowed, what was it, 3? Was it 3 SEC teams in? Yeah. It was Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, right? So we're just 6 months removed from that. So I'm sure Greg Sankey is happy about this, right? Because the Big Ten and the SEC is certainly having a Cold War right now. They don't want to admit it, but if you know, like they're really having a Cold War right now. I promise you they are. So, yes, 10 teams, that's 40% of the poll, and painted in one conference colors. I wonder how the other conferences are feeling right now. I especially want to know how the ACC is feeling right now. ACC, how you feeling? You got SMU at 16, Miami at 10. Louisville is a top 25 team. Don't believe me, just watch. I promise you. Don't believe me, just watch. Louisville will be in the top 25. Because I promise you, they got one of the best running back tandems that nobody is talking about. And Isaac Brown. People talk about Isaac Brown, but people don't talk enough about Duke Watson. They really don't. And I like that wide receiver core. Miller Moss is real deal. Louisville is a top 25 team, people. Baylor is 100% a top 25 team. But don't believe me, just watch. Y'all gonna see it week 1. And watch how the AP poll go a la 22. If Baylor come out here, right, and beat the brakes out of Auburn in Waco, watch how the poll move. And y'all gonna be like, yo, the governor called it. Watch how it move. I promise you, just watch how it move. Dude, that's how they get down. So this conference absolutely deserves heavy representation. Let's be honest. You guys know I have never or will I ever be an SEC homer. That's not who I am. In my core, that's not who I am. I've always enjoyed ACC football. I always have. I live on the Atlantic coast. I've always enjoyed their football games. I've always enjoyed watching quarterback play in the ACC. As of recent, my favorite conference has been the Big 12, and it's not even close. You're talking about close games over the last 6 or 7 years. That conference has the closest games. They have exciting games. Offensive play is spectacular. And right now, they have the best quarterbacks. I'll put the quarterbacks in the Big 12, that group of quarterbacks, over any other conference quarterbacks. Why? Because of the depth of the conference. You got a guy like Josh Hoover at TCU, Sawyer Robertson at Baylor, Sam Levitt at Arizona State, Noah Fafita at Arizona. You got Rocco Beck at Iowa State. You got Marion Morton at Texas Tech. You got a kid like Kaden Salter at Colorado with Juju Lewis on the bench, right? Well, at least that's what I believe is going to happen. You got a guy that nobody's talking about right now in H-Town, and Connor Wegman. He's the guy in H-Town right now. And H-Town, we're definitely going there this year. I thoroughly enjoy talking with them. The collection of quarterbacks in the Big 12 is better than any other conference. So, yes, historically, the ACC has been my favorite conference to watch because I live on the Atlantic coast. I enjoy watching the quarterback play. The Big 12 has always been up there. There's been years I really enjoyed watching Big 10 ball. I remember back in 2009 when I was watching Minnesota play a lot. They had the kid, Adam Weber, and then they had at quarterback and Eric Decker at wide receiver. They were cold. And they had a gadget player, too, because we thought he was going to play quarterback, but he ended up playing like an H-back, and Marquise Gray. I remember on NCAA 09, I used to 10, whatever this one it was, I used to sub him in at quarterback. Boom, whenever I wanted to run a little run play. So there was times I thoroughly enjoyed that conference. Yes, the SEC has the toughest gauntlet. I'll give you that. I'm not arguing that, nor am I debating that. And does it generate the most money for the sport? I'm not debating that at all. The two highest grossing schools as it pertains to merch and being able to make money is the team down in Norman and the team down in Austin. So, of course, I'm not debating that. I'm not debating that at all. But what I'm saying is I'm not an SEC homer. I need to make that crystal clear before I say what I'm about to say. I have never been, nor will I ever be an SEC homer. Right now, I ain't saying we got beef with the SEC, but at the end of the day, CFB Nation. That's all I'm going to say about it. That's all I'm going to say. That's probably all I'm allowed to say before the squad get mad at me. But, yeah. So, 8 teams belong. 100% belong. Now, you got other teams you can debate. Those two teams I feel like you can debate without a shadow of a doubt. Tennessee is not a top 25 team. How many times have you guys had to see me get up in front of you guys and tell y'all Tennessee not a top 25 team? And I guarantee if you look at the demographics, ain't no fans in Knoxville watching this show because they probably feel like I hate their team. But if they've been watching the content that we've been making when we had the flagship show, CFB Nation, when I birthed CFB Nation back in 2022, then Nino joined. Then we had we was rocking with T2T at one point. And then, now, when 2022, when Tennessee was darling of the sport, I was hyping them up. I was hyping them up before the 2023 season. When they had Joe Milton at quarterback, I was hyping them up last season. I've always liked the talent, but at the end of the day, I don't see it this year. I'm sorry. I don't care what you did last year. I hate when people sit here and talk about, what you did last year matters. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. College football is a league of what have you done for me lately? And lately, what I've been saying from Tennessee, I ain't been liking. Wide receiver was arrested recently. We had the mysterious thing going on with Boo Carter. We had Blurgate. Nico Iamaleava situation was mishandled. I don't care whose side you're on. If you're a Tennessee fan, you say, hey, about time we got rid of Nico, then yeah, about time you got rid of Nico, but you should have done it during the early window. That way you could have got you a dude at quarterback, and you didn't have to tamper or poach at other teams' quarterbacks who weren't even in the portal. So Tennessee should not be in the top 25. Coaches poll, AP poll, whoever poll, you got Tennessee in your top 25, you are afraid. And that's how I feel, and I stand on that. There's no way you can look at that roster construction and say that team, neutral site, we're going to find out week 1. That's all right, because we're going to be there at the Aflac. And now if they look good, I'm giving them their credit. But if you think Fran Brown, who got SEC roots, ain't going to be ready for that game, bro, and ain't going to have his team motivated, and when I'm at that game, and if Syracuse wins, I'm going to be looking. Mm-hmm. And then on Monday, I'm going to be talking. So you already know that. The only other team you can argue is Texas A&M. Granted, it was just a game outside of the conference championship last year. Granted, Mike Elko exceeded the expectations I had set forth from him based on the intel I was getting out of Durham. Because the intel coming out of Durham was not good. It wasn't. The way that he left the Blue Devils was not good. There are people that I trust, sources that I trust that are very close to the program. They go to all the games. not just college football, basketball. So they are in the inner circles of all the media down there. The way that I heard he left, I was not happy with. So my expectations for Texas A&M throw high because I did like the roster construction, and I'm a huge Colin Klein fan as an offensive coordinator. I just didn't know where to have it. And this year, like Marcel Reed, where's he at? I do like the Casey Concepcion get. Thoroughly enjoyed being able to watch him. Got to see him play live during his time in Raleigh. So it'll be interesting. So I think if you could argue 2 teams, but most people will say, hey, they deserve 9 teams. And some people probably do believe Tennessee should be in the top 25 based on them making a playoff appearance. Well, for those of y'all who believe that, what were you doing the offseason? Did you catch any of it? And did you evaluate any of it? That's the question I have for you. Now, if Tennessee come out guns blazing, I will apologize. I truly will. I thoroughly will. I've been wrong before, but I got a good feeling about this. So that's how I feel. So, if you're looking at Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, who's growing on me, which is weird because after I swing in the mix on the team, sometimes I take a break from that team like I did with that team in Lubbock a couple of years ago when I was super high on them when they had Jerron Bradley, and they truly let me down that year. I think Tyler Shuck was their quarterback that year. But Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Florida all have credible top 25 resumes. I couldn't believe the coaches poll had the audacity to have Oklahoma outside of their top 25. How can you look at their roster? How can you look at the things that they were able to achieve this offseason? How can you not look at their defense and how well their defense played last year and the fact that they got a young, hotshot offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle? That way, coach can focus on defense. Brent Venables can do what he loves, and that's defense. And he teaches defense at a high level. I don't think we truly will ever appreciate how good Oklahoma's defense was last year because their offense was awful. And I mean that in every stretch of the word. What they averaged, like 14 points per game last year? 15 points? The Seth Luttrell experience at the offensive coordinator, it wasn't just him. The players played, coaches coach, right? So the players played terribly. So I'm interested to see what Jackson Arnold does down in Auburn because the ideology of it's the system no longer works because Hugh Freeze has a fun system. The ideology of the players shouldn't have worked last year. But definitely don't work this year because you had one of the best wide receiver cores in the nation. So I'm interested to see how things work. So even the middle SEC teams have enough talent, So you look at it, what is it, 16 teams in the conference? 10 of them. And the AP poll top 25. Hey, I can get it. But for me, the turnover that we've seen in Knoxville, for me, it's difficult to say that they're a top 25 team. Now, for the people that are saying it, you're going based off of last year. Have you thoroughly looked at their roster? I've done a Tennessee deep dive. I've explained this. I've explained what their floor was. I explained what their ceiling is. And I explained before that I will apologize to this program if I'm wrong. Because Josh Heupel is a damn good coach. He's one of the top 10 coaches in all of college football, and he ain't 10. He's probably not 9 either. So that's how I feel about Josh Heupel. We got to see it, man. They won 9 ball games this year. I will apologize. They won 8 ball games this year. I'll apologize. But for my money, they're not a top 25 team. So that's my verdict. We can get upset about the 10 teams. I'm not really overly upset about the 10 teams. I'm more upset about the teams that were left out. You know what I'm saying? Baylor being left out. Louisville should not be left out. How do you look at that roster construction? How do you not look and see the things that Jeff Brom has been able to do during his tenure in Louisville, Kentucky, and not like what they're doing? To get Vince Mauro as their general manager, that's a huge move. If this sport is a what have you done for me lately, and the moves that they've been making in Louisville, Kentucky aren't top tier, then what are we judging this off of? Is it name brand? What y'all trying to be brand ambassadors instead of people who are just voting on a poll? Like, no ball, watch ball, and evaluate and make a decision and make sound decisions. Don't care if you leave somebody out because they're a big program or somebody may look at you stupid because your poll look crazy. Like, nah, that's not why we do this. I will release every poll. You know what I'm saying? We got an easy way of doing it. You know what I'm saying? Boom. You got a form. You fill out the form. Bada bing, bada boom. We convert it. That's it. That's how the CFB Nation poll will be formulated. But anybody on this roster, everybody on this roster is knowledgeable. They are. Even our director, Mike, knows college ball. So we don't got no problems explaining how we feel. Let's move on to the next segment. That's my governor ruling segment. Hey, you can be mad at the 10 teams, but all 10 of those teams have an argument. My argument is there should be 8 or 9, not 10. That's my argument. That's my governor's ruling. We're going to move right along to the next segment, Around the Nation. Shout out to everybody watching this show. And for Around the Nation, I got to bring back the window back up. There we go. I was wondering what was going on for a second. But we're going to evaluate the best conference odds. We'll get into what Bleacher Report had to say about it. But first, let's just go over it. We got time, right? We got time today. We all friends here, right? Maybe not. But it is what it is. So let's look at ACC Conference Championship game winners. And, of course, this is school from VA aren't on here. I remember last year when I was like, yo, Virginia Tech might win the ACC. And I wanted to bet it. I went to bet it. And I was like, well, yo, why can't I bet on Virginia Tech? Why y'all hating? Well, everybody betting Virginia Tech. I didn't know that, like, schools in Virginia, you can't do this conference winner stuff here in the Commonwealth because it's the Commonwealth. That's just the way it is. So, Clemson, you ain't going to get no money unless you bet $1 million. Miami's next. Louisville's third. Interesting. Louisville has better odds than SMU, but SMU was in the top 25. Listen, our friends out west know. The house will win more than you going to win. Our friends out west know. Now, I've been saying all offseason, right? You guys been hearing me saying that I don't want to say it, but I believe that Rhett Lashley and company, right? I think there'll be a sophomore slump. Like, they went undefeated in the conference. The middle class of this conference is so good. I think some of the things that work for them, I think people were struggling with that system because the Rhett Lashley RPO, I love running. SMU is one of my favorite playbooks on College Football 26 because I can play scumbag ball, and you either going to stop my run game, stop my quarterback from running, or you going to go and check this quick little route I'm about to run. You know what I'm saying? So, Georgia Tech at 4. I think that's interesting. Let's show some more. Duke at 5. Duke is a scary team. I've been telling people all along, Manny Diaz is building something in Durham. So when I begin to look at these odds, I'm really a fan of this Georgia Tech odd. 1,400. You can make some pretty decent money making a bet on this. But this one right here is crazy because they can do it. I promise you they can do it. Florida State is plus 3,000. Pitt plus 4,000. Shout out to Pat Narduzzi, man. Such a stand-up dude. UNC at 4,500. NC State at 4,500. BC at 7,500. Go ahead and take that bet, brother. Syracuse at 8,000. Cal at 10. Wake Forest at 30. Stanford at 30. And, of course, Virginia or Virginia Tech are omitted for this list. That's the ACC. And I believe Bleacher Report was saying they like Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's going to be really good this year. A coach with an identity. There's a few schools who match the SEC intensity. One of them is Georgia Tech and their head coach Brent Key, and another one is Dan Lanning. They're like SEC out west, right? And then we have the SEC Atlantic with Georgia Tech. But the physicality that Georgia Tech plays with, they're going to be able to run the ball. You're going to have to deal with them running the ball, and not just Jamal Haynes either. Haynes King is real deal. I think if he can deliver from a passing perspective numbers like he had in the 2023 season, I think he'll be sharp. But while Bleacher Report says this is the best bet, I think if you try to really get some money, you can make this bet right here. But who I think going to win, of course, is Clemson. Who I think coming second is Louisville. But, if you're just looking at the odds, you're like, man, I got $30 to burn. Let me go ahead and put this 30 on Duke. And you know what I'm saying? You can turn it into some money. So let's move on to the next conference. Show less right there. Then go to the Big 12. Show all of these. So Kansas State plus 5,500. Kansas State, I think, has been one of the overwhelming favorites to win it. I think Arizona State is the favorite. Gotta love Kenny Dillingham. Texas Tech, they spent money. They better win. You spend money, you better win. Right? Isn't that the thought? You spend money, you better win. Arizona State at 5,500. Utah plus 600. That's the Devin Dampier effect. That's when you trust the coaches. That's when you trust the program. Baylor at plus 650. I like that. Is that the best bet in here? I don't know. I believe Bleacher Report might have went with Kansas at that plus 1,400. But this is when you know you got a strong middle class. You see this? That's when you know. They don't know. The odd makers is telling you right here. Our friends out west always like to say they know. I feel like they don't know right here. TCU at plus 850. Iowa State, 1,200. That's the best bet right there. It's not even close. This is the best bet you want to go with right here. This Iowa State, if I'm looking at this, and these are, of course, AP poll, this is the best bet right there. That's 1,200 for Iowa State. I would take that. I really would. Like, I don't think you could pay me to take this one. Is that messed up? Too soon? Yeah, you couldn't pay me to take that one. You really couldn't. And I don't know what to expect from UCF this year. I enjoyed our time talking to them. Every player that we talked to, because we talked at the Big 12 Media Days, we did talk to every player that, that came to the event from UCF. They all talked about Sky Frost swag. Each and every one of them. They really did. So, be interesting to see that one. I show Les there. Go up to the Big Ten Conference. Let's look at that. Ohio State plus 190. Penn State at 220. Oregon at 390. Michigan at 1,000. USC at 2,000. I like that one. Yo. I'm making this bet today. I'm making that bet today. And I might make this one too. Iowa at 3,300. But, Illinois at plus 4,000. Why people don't like Illinois? And I've been hearing it more and more. And I've been trying to make sense of it because I'm like, are they just not seeing what I'm not seeing? It don't make sense to me. It really don't. I don't know how you can't look at Luke Altmaier and say he was one of the most clutch performers. And, the NBA got that stat. I don't know if college football has it, but they need it. But he's one of the most clutch performers in college football last year. You guys just weren't watching him. That's what it tells me. Oh, they almost lost to Purdue. Did you see the clutch performance? Probably didn't. Rutgers? Didn't see that one? What about in Lincoln on a Friday night? Where Nebraska had every chance to win that game. Luke Altmaier would not allow it to happen. He wouldn't. So, this Illinois plus 4,000, I'm placing that bet today. I like that one a lot. Any other ones I like in here? You getting dangerous with this one. And you really getting dangerous with this one. But I'm the type of person. See, that's crazy. I didn't know I could do this without being logged into my account. What this is right here? Man, I know that. Stop playing with me. $30 do. Ain't bad. Is there any other ones? Yeah, you getting real risky down here. $15,000 for a $100 bet on UCLA. That's if you risky. I show less there. Let's go to the SEC. You got Texas. Yeah, look at this. This is crazy. Plus 280. What did it get you? What $100 get you? Wow. Georgia 290. Alabama 480. LSU 600. Texas A&M 1,500. Whoa. I really like this one. Man, I know that. Stop playing with me. Florida at 1,900. Ain't bad. Not bad. Ole Miss 2,000. Auburn. This is a good one. Whoa. That's a really good one. Missouri with their schedule, but I'll be more confident here. Not bad. Oh, they ain't letting you go crazy on this. They ain't trying to give up a lot of money on this. Oh, label. So, did we cover Big 10? Big 12? Yeah, we did. So, boom. Let's talk G5 ball. You guys should already know where I'm going here, right? At least you should have some idea. Safest bet, in my opinion, I know Tulane is the favorite now with them getting Retzlaff. I like Navy a lot. I really do. But there's a team in my bold prediction for the year. Booyah. I'm placing this bet today, too. $10, give me $5.50. Yeah, I'm placing that bet today. So let's go to Con USA. Oh, that's right. You can't bet on Liberty. I wouldn't even touch this. Oh, that's right. But runner-up would be settled as the winner. Okay. Nah, I ain't rocking with that. Let's talk about the MAC. This one is rough, bro. I would not touch that one. I don't think there's any really smart bets here. I really don't. You know, just bet heavy with either Toledo or Miami of Ohio. I really like Buffalo's team this year too, but I don't see any smart bets there. Let's look at the Mountain West. I'm UNLV. I figured it wouldn't be much. Hey, shout out to this program. This is a W program. San Jose State. They up there too on our best relationships with programs. San Jose State is a W program. Fresno State, Air Force, Hawaii. Hawaii is another one of those. We got a really great relationship. We don't talk about this school. Ouch. Your best bet is UNLV for this one, in my opinion, and it's Sun Belt. Yo, Georgia State is plus 4,000. That's crazy. I'd go Texas State in this one. That's what I would go. So those are my picks. Let's talk more about some of Bleacher Report. I believe it was favorite picks. It was for the ACC Georgia Tech at 1,200. Jackets had one of the most exciting quarterback-running back duos in the country. I've already talked about them with Haynes King and Jamal Haynes. No Miami, SMU, or Louisville on the schedule. I did not know that. Clemson at home and a defense with room to grow. Hey, I like that. That's not bad. Texas A&M and SEC, that was one I mentioned as well. Iowa, plus 3,500. Illinois is a little bit better at plus 4,000, but I wouldn't be mad at that at all. Kansas at plus 1,800, and then in AAC, they went North Texas. I would have went FAU, Sunbelt. They went Old Dominion. MAC, they went Miami of Ohio. So that's not bad at all. And remember, Arizona State was 100-1 to win the Big 12 last year and cashed out. So anybody who bet that, man, I know they made a great deal of money. But that's our show today. Really fun episode, man. I enjoy the weekdays only because I get to give you guys this college football content. And we not stopping no time soon, I promise you. I am dedicating this season to college football. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in a sport that survive in advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, you all take care. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great
on
defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the Appreciate you checking out this video. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and also don't forget to check out the other content that we have here, there, and everywhere. Governor College Football.